This is Good Morning Antigua, Barbuda. Wherever you are in the world, especially our friends in North America, Asia, and of course the other Caribbean islands, we're glad that you're with us online. And for those of you who are viewing or listening to radio, let me say a very special good morning to you, because I'm going to introduce a gentleman that I don't ever remember meeting him, but I met him for the first time this morning, Mr. Michael Browne. He's the Labour Party candidate for the upcoming general elections, constitutionally due in, of course, March of 2014, and the All Saints West constituency. Good morning, Mr. Browne.
Good morning, Dave.
Nice meeting you, man. How are you?
Nice to meet you as well.
I want to clear something here. I said Mr. Browne. Are you related to Mr. Gaston Browne?
You know, to the best of my knowledge, we are not related. All the Brownes are not. All the Brownes are not related. But you know, if ever we are, maybe at some point someone will tell me or tell us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not privy to the fact that he's your cousin?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of.
Good morning, sir. Welcome to Good Morning Antigua, Barbuda. It is a privilege to have you here. Our aim is, of course, to let the general population of Antigua and Barbuda and wider field know the persons who are putting themselves up to raise the standards of our country and to continue the development of Antigua and Barbuda. Mr. Browne, I don't know much of you, but I've learned a lot since we've been sitting here prior to going on the air. Could you tell Antigua and Barbuda who Mr. Browne is?
Well, I suppose in a nutshell, good morning, Antigua and Barbuda, to the international audience. Good morning to All Saints West. People in All Saints West know me very well because I'm from CV Farm. I've lived in the area for many years. I'm a product of the soil. I'm a product of CV Farm. Where pottery is made in Antigua, that's where I grew up. So that's my roots. The Brownes in CV Farm, you know, CV Farm is one village. We're all related. I'm related to Codrington as well. You know, we're family. But having grown up in CV Farm, I understand that, you know, and it's also my experience that education is a chance for personal development and for development of community. And when the opportunities were presented for me to be able to develop myself educationally, I capitalized on them. So I went off to the University of West Indies after the A-level department at Antigua State College and studied there. And when I came back, I worked at Princess Margaret School, you know, good old PM just down the road.
Yeah, as a teacher?
As a teacher.
Yeah, okay.
I taught English, history, social studies, about 4 subjects.
Okay.
One of the challenges I faced when I worked at PM, I realized that, well, one, the infrastructure was terrible. There were lots of students who had to bring in blocks or bricks to sit on. Some didn't have desks or chairs. This is something that bothered me terribly. Coming from the Seventh-day Adventist school, it was a complete shocker. I also realized that there were lots of young people who came in. They were prepared to go to school, but they were not prepared to learn. They had developmental challenges. So what I did, I created an after-school club called the Society of Etiquette and Modeling. And I realized that the way to catch the young people and to get them involved was to, hey, you guys like fashion, you like style? I'll bring in some persons who are big in Antigua in modeling. And we will have an etiquette club, we'll have a modeling society. And after we got it going, and they got really excited, and we were just about to have a fashion show, then I said, hey, let's talk about grades. And that was the time when they started to run around and, well, you know, Mr. Browne, I'm doing bad in this subject, I'm doing bad in this subject. And so what we had, students in the upper grades who were really good, I had them tutor students in the other grades. And in order, if you wanted to participate in the fashion show, you had to sit in those classes. It was a tie-in that got them hooked. You know, but while I worked at PM, school finishes at, you know, roughly about 1:30 after school club. So I also worked at the Antigua Sun as a sub-editor for quite a while. Worked as the Daily Observer as well. And in the evenings, I had a small business called Verbosity Plus.
What's that?
Verbosity Plus. And
What's that about?
This is what it does. First it started out with fruit baskets. You know, selling food baskets, just like the edible arrangements.
You're an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, man. Listen, when I came back from university, in my mind, I understood that, one, I needed to assist my mother as much as possible. And the other thing was I needed to make sure, because once you had a taste of school, it's addictive, because your mind just opens up so much. And when more young people in Antigua get an opportunity to go to college or to go to school, their minds will just expand tremendously. So I knew that I wanted to go back to school as quickly as possible. to get the ball rolling. So I had this small business in the evening. When things were good, we had relations. Like for instance, we had a relationship with Blue Waters that we used to go over there and do romantic escapades. We drop some petals on the floor, petals on the bed, do this nice little romantic thing for when couples come over. When the season was really good, they were up to maybe 7 persons who worked for the company, and on a regular basis I maintained 1 person to do like the regular birthday baskets, that type of stuff. And then I went off to the US on an OAS scholarship. It wasn't easy. Going there, the weather, climate, finance, especially the finance, was really tough, but I went with an agenda. Initially was to do 1 master's, and then I ended up doing 2 masters, because, like you go shopping for a suit or for shoes, I quickly realized, and it's funny because I tell people this all the time, I quickly realized that for a little extra time, for a little extra money, which the scholarship was already providing, I could get 2 degrees for a little bit more than the cost of 1.
So 2 for the price of 1.
2 for the price of 1. And so I capitalized on that quickly. And I did 2 masters, and I had a professor of mine who liked the work that I did, got me involved in starting new schools in Antigua, in New York. And so the first school we worked on, we started up a brand new school, first of its kind, an urban environmental school in Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn. And it went pretty well. And then, the Board of Education in New York, they said, hey, we like this guy. We want him to work for us. Let's get him some papers so he can work. And so they made the appeal to the Antiguan government. Hey, can we have him for a little time to do some training and the rest of it? I enjoyed it.
Because the OAS, the scholarship, meant that you had to come back.
I had to come back right away.
But what did you major in? What did you?
I did a master's of science, the science of teaching, because the general thing is that you just get a degree and then you can teach, or you acquire some subjects and that you can teach. When I got to the US, I realized that, hey, teaching is a science, and in order for us to ensure that our teachers are able to teach that science, they have to be taught the science of teaching. So I have a master's in the science of teaching, and I have another master's in the administration and supervision and policy of educational leadership, because education is a policy process. It starts from the top with the legislation, and then it starts with the persons who are experts in order to be able to implement what the legislation says. And it goes down to the teacher, to the administration, the principal, and to the teachers. Teachers have to be trained, teachers need resources, and teachers need to be held accountable. And once that process takes place, it engages students more to want to learn, to be able to learn, and to participate in the learning process as active members instead of just as sponges that soak up what is being said. So I did this in the US for a while, taught at City University for quite a while. And then afterwards I realized with the financial changes, I was like, hey, it's time to get back to school.
Final changes back down.
It's time to get back to school, and it's time to get back home. And so I...
Get back home?
To Antigua. Yeah, to Antigua. Yeah. And so I reached out to Howard University, and I expressed to them my interest in doing a law degree and a doctoral degree in educational leadership and policy at the same time. And they kindly informed me that, hey, this can't be done. The program does not exist. The only person who ever tried it was Dr. Eric Williams, and he wasn't able to get it done. So I'm like, hey, maybe I'm an Antiguan. Maybe let's give it a shot. And let's just say I'm at the point where in May 2014, I'm expected to graduate with the Doctorate of Education and Juris Doctorate from Howard University. First of its kind has ever been done by anyone. And I'm not proud that it's just me. I'm proud that an Antiguan was able to do it. And so we've blazed the trail.
Mr. Browne, because I don't have all day, this is intriguing stuff. Now, this is a story that should be told as an Antiguan. But from where you were to now being declared a candidate for the Antigua Labour Party in the area that, of course, they made pottery and they say they make man to. How did you get involved with the politics?
It's an interesting story. When I reached out initially, it was not to the Antigua Labour Party. It was not to get involved in politics. It was the last thing on my agenda. I reached out to Gaston Browne, and I asked him, how can I get involved in education?
Why did you reach out to Mr. Browne?
Well, I mean, when Mr. Browne became the leader of the party, I embraced the vision. I embraced the change. I embraced the party, drawing the bridge, connecting the elders and the youth, because there's a gap. And I feel that, I felt and I continue to feel that Mr. Browne bridged that gap between the two entities. And I liked his vision for Antigua and Barbuda in terms of economic development, national development overall. And regardless of which side you're from, I believe in once Antigua develops, let's have a conversation going forward. And so I reached out to Mr. Browne and I said, how can I contribute to the education portion of the manifesto? And when the government is formed, because I believe there will be a change of government, how can I contribute towards developing a national university and towards education in Antigua and Barbuda?
That's
what I reached out and I spoke about. Politics was not even on the agenda. And we had a long conversation, and it almost...
Were you in Antigua when
I was in DC
so
when
this was
happened.
via telephone?
Via telephone.
Okay.
And, you know, Mr. Browne said, I'm going to call you back in a couple of minutes. He called me back, and he had a number of questions for me, which I'm like, what's going on? And then he said, hey, we need you in Antigua. The Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party needs you to contest the seat in All Saints West. Of course, I had various questions. I mean, what's going on, you know? And then I told him, you know what, give me a short bit of time, and I'll get back to you. And I called, you know, various persons that I looked up to in the community, and I said, hey, what do you think? And they said, there's lots of work to be done, but if it can be done, you can do it. And I called Mr. Browne back, and I said, I have to make some adjustments. I'm going to reach out to my university. And if Howard University restructures my program in such a way that I can be in Antigua and still finish my courses and my research, I'll be there. I reached out to Howard University, and...
So here you are. You're a candidate now for the Antigua Labour Party.
Speaks for itself.
And the election is constitutionally due in March of 2014. Where are we, and what does Antigua and Barbuda or the constituents? Because although it's a constituency, you're elected and you serve Antigua and Barbuda. Why should we elect you?
Well, look at it this way. I strongly believe that as a politician, I think it's essential that you're a good man. I think it's essential that you're honest. I think it's essential that you're a grassroots person. I think it's essential that you have a love for the people and that you're connected to the people. But I think those elements should be the foundation of who you are as a parliamentary representative and not the ceiling. I think what a parliamentarian should bring is expertise. They should bring some idea of the changes that they want to bring about on the national stage and in their constituency. I also think the parliamentarian should be open to making sure that there's community development. And the community development is interlinked with national development at all areas. Now, because I'm in education, education is my base, I'm focused on education, national development through retraining of our people, making sure that education at all levels is affordable to all Antiguans, at least to a first degree. And for those persons who are not interested in, not everybody wants to go to university just to get a degree, but everybody wants to be retrained. And I think once community members and citizens of Antigua and Barbuda have access to education, to the national university, once they have access to the ability to be retrained, whether it be going to as a full-time student or even in classes for moms and pops and so on, I think that is something that will jettison Antigua's national development overall. In the U.S., I recognize and realize the benefits of education tourism. And I was speaking to one of my constituents last night at Big Banana. How are you doing? And we started talking because he's into you know, sailing yachts around. And I said, listen, when a tourist comes in for 1 week, you have business. But imagine when we have students who come to Antigua for an entire semester, for an entire year, to study at our nationally accredited and recognized university. They're going to be here for the whole semester. They need places to live. They need cars to drive. They need entertainment. They need food. It jumps into the overall industry. And Dave, you know, in the United States and in other countries, a university drives the economy of a city or a town. Antigua is ideally positioned for us to be able to tap into that market. We have countless persons here who are qualified, equipped, and ready to be professors at a university. We have countless, the infrastructure is prepared. As in an earlier guest this morning spoke about Antigua, unlike any other Caribbean country. We have 3G coverage all around. So we are prepared to connect with the world on a broader scale. I remember there were newspaper articles in the other Caribbean countries, the bigger ones, that snickered when St. George's University started in Grenada. Old people have a saying, who laugh last, laugh the best. Because when you drive through London, you drive through New York, you drive through DC, St. George's University, Grenada, on the side. Study during the week, go to the beach on the weekend. It sells. And we have to tap into that market and make sure that it sells. Now, the money that we get from that and the rechanneling of education levy, first we put into developing our schools. Like CV Farm School, for instance, I went by and, you know, it could do with a coat of paint. I want to be the type of representative who goes out and say, hey, school is about to start. Let's not wait until the day before school starts to cut the grass. We have the funds. Let's get it going. We have desks. The schools need desks. They need chairs. Let's get a job program going for the youth during the summer where we empower persons in the community who have the potential or capability to build furniture. In CV Farm, for instance, we have quite a number of persons who can, who can make the furnishings. Get the youth with them, empower them, give them some jobs over the summer. It's an opportunity so you can expand their mind while giving them resources and have them create the desk and chairs that the schools need. Have them paint the schools, have them cut the grass, so that when school is about to start, students walk into a clean environment, a new environment. And studies in the US have shown that your learning, your desire to learn increases when you walk into an environment that is fit for learning.
And they'll take ownership to it also because they participated in the upgrade of whatever needed to be done. But Mr. Browne, we hear all that. And does your vision and the policy of the Antigua Labour Party, is there a connect there as far as the education is concerned? You contact them because your interest was to create the education aspect of their manifesto. Has that been done?
Yeah, yes, it has. It has. When Gaston Browne, the Honourable Gaston Browne, said, hey, you know what, go ahead and design the education piece for the manifesto. I took off some time from my dissertation. I designed a 4-page portion for the manifesto. But I wasn't satisfied because oftentimes, not just in Antigua, there are many times that persons are elected, a government is elected, and they're not prepared to govern. So I went further and I created a 21-page implementation plan for comprehensive education reform, covering everything from training and retraining teachers to creating a pool of assistant teachers that are able to go in and provide support. Special education in something in Antigua that's in dire need. I met a young man on Sunday he's a special education administrator, and I think the only school on the island. And he was telling me of some of the difficulties that he has in terms of attracting funding. On the plan that I'm proposing puts a special education teacher in each school. Create special education conference where parents and teachers, and let's say a parent needs an advocate, can come in and sit down and plan what the design an education plan for that student for the year going forward, so that the other teachers can have that plan. School safety agents in schools is a big thing. Many teachers are saying, hey, you know, I'm afraid. I myself, when I taught at PM, was attacked by a student. And I hear the news frequently about teachers are saying, hey, I will not talk to this student because that student will fight me. If we have school safety agents who are not quite police officers, but they're a little bit more informed and equipped than security guards, then they can engage students who have high discipline needs in a constructive manner and move them forward. We're also looking at making sure that every school has a guidance counselor. Because guidance counselors are the ones, they connect to students and they help them to tap into their inner selves. And it makes students comfortable to live in the castle of their skins, so that when they leave school, they're not ill-equipped to find out, what am I going to do? You know? And another thing we're also looking into in the whole education piece reform, math is a serious problem, not just in Antigua, but in a lot of countries. I looked at the math scores of the recent CXC results, and we do need some help. We need all the help we can get. One of my propositions is magnet schools. And if we create a magnet school is a school that it's focused on a particular discipline. So we want to create a magnet school that's focused on mathematics and science. and we structure it in such a way so that it provides an overall benefit for the students who graduate to be able to contribute to various sectors of the economy. So education is such a critical part of personal development, of communal development, and national development. And so when the Labour Party's plan ties into my plan for educational development in such a way that it's almost like a perfect marriage, because one works hand in hand with the other. An informed community, an educated community, a trained community is a community that's prepared for tomorrow.
Now, we look at, what was the period that you taught at Princess Margaret School?
I taught for 3 years at Princess Margaret School, left in 1999 or 2000.
Okay.
Yeah, so
okay.
I taught for 3 years at Princess Margaret School.
And you look at the changes as far as the world is concerned, and the digital divide that is there now, and they see the comprehensive look at how we are going to a complete 90-degree change in as far as education is concerned. So you're quite satisfied that these things are achievable.
I'm not only satisfied that they're achievable, I'm fully convinced that if they're not done, we will be left so far behind of the technological divide. I just had a conversation with a previous guest, and she suggested to me, hey, creating a university is such a big task.
I was about to ask that.
It's a huge task. And I said, I used to think that until I got to the U.S. and I realized the United States sees education as a business. There's lots of worry that, hey, we don't have a library. Most of the studies most of the research that I'm doing now for my doctoral dissertation, from my house, I have full access to the Library of Congress. I have full access to George Washington University Library, to Howard University Library, to the entire consortium of DC libraries. I have full access to Columbia University Library and to Harvard University Library, just by a password. Electronic libraries are so present that many universities have started on the basis of electronic libraries. They're difficult to discount them. That's one way that we can jump forward and jump quickly. It requires a legislative act, chartering of a university, requiring getting the necessary sponsors. But we have at the Antigua State College, and I usually tell these people all the time, teachers at the Antigua State College, they work miracles. Because I remember when I went to the State College, between teachers like Denise Gardner, Miss Hamilton, they taught us, we sat under the tree, and we had a class. And we were victims to the birds who sat in the mango tree. But the fact is, we graduated doing an English exam with the highest passes. And within a period of years, Antigua has had a track record of sending the most distinguished student to the University of West Indies. And so we continue that tradition. Now imagine if these passionate people, passionate Antiguans, imagine if they had the resources, imagine if they had the infrastructure to do what they already have been doing.
Under the mango tree.
Well, not just on the mango tree, but they can take the skills that they're using under the mango tree in a classroom with the technology that they need to move forward. Antigua is already there.
Mr. Browne, we're in serious times in this country, and it is all well for one to speak things, and the party policy would be what would need to take it forward. But the implementations, and in today's world that we live in, one goes on, we've seen it many times, and says, I want to do this, and time to do it. The implementation is hard. Now, from listening to you, and the Antigua Labour Party should win. I'm seeing MP, Minister of Education.
That's my aim.
That's your aim. But while we're focusing on education, there's other aspects in this country. We're talking about agriculture, we're speaking about tourism, we're speaking about development of businesses and all this. And although the education system works hand in hand with the economic development of a country, based on the educators and the students, we need to do things to get to that point. Are your colleagues ready to do that?
Well, look at it this way. When I said yes to the Antigua Labour Party, I said yes to the Honourable Gaston Browne, not because I believe we were partially prepared, not because I believe there was a potential that the party could make the country better. I said yes because I understood that the leadership was ready to take Antigua to the next step. And anybody who returns home will tell you it's given up a lot of opportunities. But if you don't fix home, then you'll have nothing to come back to. And so it's not just me, it's all Antiguans. You know, it's our job to fix our country. It's our job to make sure that we push towards the highest levels of national development. When I sit down and I listen to Gaston, even the other Monday night we were on the radio, and I listened to Gaston Browne talk about his plans. I've heard most of these plans already, but when I listen to them in detail being broken down, you know, how we're going to restructure the banks, the development bank in such a way so that we can provide microloans for young entrepreneurs. How it's going to be done in such a way so that the national university can be structured so that we can focus on food security, so we can focus on the environment, so we can focus on climate change and the impact of climate change, so we can provide the additional resources that we need for the hotel training center to bring it on board so it becomes an internationally recognized institution. These are the type of things that bind to comprehensive and overall development. That's what I bought into. That's the party that I believe that I can go in under Gaston Browne's leadership and create the change and development that Antigua definitely needs. Things are hard in Antigua. I met a Rasta man in Seaview Farm, and he went to the shop and he was buying 1 egg.
1 egg.
Now, there are two sides to that. On the one hand, it shows that our business community is adjustable and savvy enough to understand that the economic situation is dire. On the other hand, it also shows that things are actually really hard. When I walk through the constituency and I go house to house in my constituency, and I hear what's said on the radio, I hear what's being said on the TV. But when I sit in people's house, this is what people tell me. My children graduated from school. They can't afford to go to college, they can't afford to get training, and they can't get jobs. That hurts. When someone sits and they tell me, hey, I've been unemployed for a very, very long time, and I don't feel like things are looking up. I don't feel positive, and I don't have the hope. That's something we need to do something about. When I see so many young people who are unable to have access to or unable to afford, that's something that we need to change. Outside of the political process, not even a political thing, our country must focus on the youth, developing the youth, making sure that there are safe spaces for the youth to be able to develop themselves, listen to ideas. As an MP, I don't proceed to know everything, but I do understand that there are people out there with ideas. I want to be able to listen to all the ideas and to sit down and to choose the best ideas going forward. When I campaigned for Barack Obama, and he ran for election first, and we did our training, the first thing they did was they gave us a tablet. And they said, when you go out and you hear any new idea which was not discussed in training, it's urgent that you upload it right away. Because it's the people who decide what type of political organization we have. We elect our leaders, so our leaders are a reflection of us. So therefore, we must ask ourselves, who am I? What type of community do I want to be reflected of? Then what type of leader do I want to reflect my interests? Do I want to reflect me? Do I want someone that I can have a glass of beer with or just sit and chat with? That's cool, but that's our friends. But when you go to the doctor and you don't just want someone that you're close with, you want someone who can get the job done. And I honestly believe, and I buy into this vision, that the Antigua Labour Party can get the job done. The Antigua Labour Party can bring it forward. In my constituency, I believe that All Saints West in particular has been disrespected in terms of the neglect that we have suffered. And I think it's time that we bring an end to the disrespect and the neglect that All Saints West has been receiving, from infrastructure to all the other things that we have not gotten. And I think it's time that All Saints West gets what it deserves in terms of development. And I think it's time that Antigua, we push it to another stage. There are good things that have happened, but more could have been done, more can be done. And we're in a position now to capitalize and bridge the gap between those like yourself who are experienced and knowledgeable and know what the world is like. The persons like myself who are in between, we have a little bit of knowledge, but we still need the guidance from the older ones. And then you have the young ones who need hope, they need optimism, and they need a chance to understand that there is a brighter future. There's going to be some sacrifices, but there is a brighter future ahead. And so we just need to bridge that link.
You think it's time? I know it's time. Thanks for introducing.
Thank you so much, Dave.
Good morning, Antigua and Barbuda. And it was a pleasure of mine to introduce you to Antigua and Barbuda and the wider world via the net, via whatever forum that they're using. Thanks for meeting you, Mr. Browne here. Have a great day. We wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you so much.
Stay focused.
All right, then.
It's Good Morning, Antigua Barbuda. I've been speaking to the gentleman that will be running in the next election for the constituency of All Saints West. And we wish him all the best. Of course, if Antigua gets the best, our country will be the best. We'll be right back.